Here we are, it's been half an hour since we mixed our dough and we've let it sit and hydrate, helping that gluten to form without having to do formal kneading. So let's take a look at it and see how it has or hasn't changed. Look at that. So that dough has already started to rise, and if you recall, the production dough or the production leaven was really very active. It frothed up when you put the water in, it floated on the top, smells very fruity. So those were all good signs. And we can see now after half an hour that the dough's already begun to rise. So this is going very well. And what I'm going to do now is what we call a stretch and fold. And the idea here is simply to extend the dough or extend the gluten, which helps to activate it and build that strength. So we're not going to do formal kneading either in a machine or on a countertop. You can do that, but we're not going to. We're going to let time work at this dough in developing it into our final dough. So this is the way I do a stretch and fold. Again, there are no rules. Everyone has a different idea. You can even put some water on the countertop, put your dough out, give it a stretch, put it back in again, doesn't matter. And the bit of extra water that you're adding in is good for the dough, it doesn't mind. So all I'm going to do is stretch it up. Don't break the dough. If you just stretch it up like that, you can see how stretchy it is. It is already beginning to develop quite good strength. I think I'm going to be eating a very delicious sourdough. Okay, so what I do now is, you can see that's quite developed, so I just wet my hands. This again is just something I do because I like to. I lift it out, I turn it over, and just let gravity pull down on it. Make my hands a bit more. Let gravity pull down again. You can see that dough is really developing quite well. And one more time, and that makes a nice ball. And we're ready to leave it for another 30 minutes and to come back and do our second stretch and fold. I'll see you in half an hour. We're back. Another 30 minutes have passed. Let's take a look at what our sourdough is doing. Wow. So as you can see, this has really risen quite significantly. I'm sure you can see how extensible the dough is becoming. A very well organized dough. So we're going to do our second big stretch and fold. So again, I just wet my hand, put it in here, and stretch. If you wanted a finer crumb, you could consider kneading this in the more traditional sense, in that you would do a full knead, so develop your dough completely right at the beginning, either on a machine or you could do it manually, to the point where you have a window pane, and that would help to create a slightly finer crumb. So now I've done 4 or 5 stretches and folds, and again, this is just the thing I like to do, as I mentioned before. I like to turn that dough over, because when you do the stretch and fold, you don't always get right under there, and I find this just helps to really get the dough up. And again, let gravity pull a little on that dough, and you can see we really have something quite nice that's developing here. And if you look closely at the surface, you can see bubbles are beginning to appear, and that tells us 2 things. One, that the gluten network is really well developed at this point, and that it's able to trap gas that is created by the active starter. So those microbes are eating the flour essentially, metabolizing it and developing the gas inside of the gluten network that ultimately results in your leavened loaf. So let's come back in half an hour for the final stretch and fold before we leave the dough for its bulk proof. Here we are, another half an hour gone by, and we are ready to do our third stretch and fold. Let's see how the dough looks. It has risen even higher than it was. And if you have a careful look at this, you will see that there are bubbles on the surface, which indicates that the dough is really becoming quite aerated. So let's do our stretch. You can also see the way in which it pulls away from the sides. So it's not clinging to the bowl. You see that? You can see that's looking like a very nice dough. What I'm going to do now is just lift it out, turn it over. Remember again, you don't have to do this. This is just what I like to do. Find it ready. Brings the dough together nicely. Given that it's a warm day and that the dough is very vigorous and quite well developed, I'm probably going to leave it for about half an hour to 45 minutes for its final proof, and at that point we will take it out, divide it into individual pieces of dough, and get it ready for the final round of proofing, which will be done in its proofing baskets. Well, here we are, 45 minutes after the last stretch and fold. Let's take a look and see how our dough is doing. Ooh. You can see how it's attached itself to the plastic. Right, so this is how our dough looks. You can see bubbles. You can see that it's really got a lot of elasticity to it. Okay, so we'll be dividing this into 5 loaves. And our job now is to tip this out and to divide the dough, in other words, to scale it. We're going to divide it and scale it, which means simply weighing it, make sure that the loaves are roughly the same size. And we will then be putting them into, in this case, 2 tins, because we'd like some sourdough sandwich loaves, but also into 3 bannetons. So, without any further ado, let me get going. And you can see how it comes out nice and cleanly. That's because the dough is hanging onto itself in a way. So that's what a nice, good looking dough is. And you can, although you can't feel it, but you can probably see that it's pretty buoyant. Lots of big air bubbles. Alright, so all I'm going to do now is just give it a little stretch out, not too much, and fold that over, and fold that over, and that really just helps create a little package of dough that is not going to stick to everything, and that we can now cut up. So let's go. And of course, when it's airy like this, it's not always very easy to tell how heavy it is that you're doing it. So that's 600, which is exactly what I wanted. And that was convenient. That one is 600, very convenient. Wow. Let's do another 600. Oh, that one's 650. So we take some off. Now it's 600. So the next step is to do a pre-shape. So the pre-shape helps to just create a bit of form, as the word says, but it also tensions the dough again and gives us another 10, 15, 20 minutes of rising, which is another opportunity to ferment the dough, to really help develop it, to get the flavors going that we want in a sourdough loaf. So I'm now going to do the shaping. So those 2 are for the loaves, and I'm just going to put some flour on here because these loaves are going to stand. So I'll start with these. So these are going to be in tins, so they're kind of a sandwich loaf. So the pre-shaping is just a little package like that. I'll do the same here. Now these are going to go into the bannetons, and I'm going to use the oval bannetons, you see them up here. I can show you one. It's going to look like that. But I still start with a pre-shape that is round. So what I'm going to do here is take the edges of the dough. You can see the extent to which this is really aerated. And then I use the friction between the dough and the tabletop just to bring it together like that in a little round. And I simply repeat the same process with each of the other pieces. And there you can see how it comes into a nice taut ball. I'll put that there. And you really don't need to cover this at all, but I'm going to just put some plastic on just to stop it drying out. But you can put dust a bit of flour on there. Either way works fine. So I'm going to leave those now for probably 10 to 15 minutes, given that this dough is as active as it is. So I've left about 2 centimeters between the loaves, and that just helps me to get a sense of how quickly and to what extent these loaves are expanding. So I'll be back in 10 or 15 minutes, and we'll take it from there.